after that little pause in domestic action. But tonight it's Rasmus Højlund, Alejandro Garnacho and Bruno Fernandes that have sealed all 3 points for Manchester United on a difficult night for Leicester City. Full time at King Power Stadium. It's Leicester City 0, Manchester United 3.
Thank you to Charlie and to Gerry for their commentary this evening of Leicester against Manchester United. We'll get some more from Gerry Taggart as we take a look back over the last 90 minutes. What went wrong for Leicester City on another very disappointing evening for the club. Matt Elliott is with me. Matt from the Mercians as well. Gents, how'd you sum it up?
Well, many words for it really, aren't they? Disappointing is the most obvious one really. In the extreme, really, for that performance. A couple of opportunities that they should have tucked away. One very late by Vardy, but Buonanotte, perhaps when Leicester were remotely still in the game, should have tucked that away. But a good defender as it was, I think Elliott, I think it was. But the general performance, it was. You know, I don't want to be too critical because everyone's aware of how dire the situation is, but that's got to be Man United's most straightforward game of the season, I would imagine. You know, they've had an up and down campaign, but they seem to me like they were only in third gear and they cruised it really. Worrying, it's worrying tonight, isn't it? On the back of Chelsea, people have got that faint hope that something miraculous can happen. It doesn't seem that that's apparent after that performance.
Yeah, from a fan point of view, Matt, how disappointed are you with that?
Yeah, I think Matt's right. Last week, although, we were unlucky, I think we came out of that game like we'd found something. It felt like we had a bit of a direction. And I mean, it's kind of obvious as to how it is from a fan's point of view because the stadium looking pretty empty. Quite disappointing. I think we expected a little bit more. I think sometimes you lose a game, but if you've put everything on the pitch, as a fan, you don't mind it. But it didn't feel that way tonight. Kind of felt like we were kind of okay with the loss after the first goal, really. So, yeah, disappointing. I think that's the word for sure. But like Matt said, we all know it, right? We don't want to keep rubbing it in, but not great.
Yeah, you said at half-time about the fact there were holes in Man United. You could see opportunities, but there was never really much of a chance of exploiting them.
No, yeah, but there was definitely gaps. And like Matt said, the chances that we had, I think you definitely expect Vardy to finish that one at the end. Not that it would have made much difference, but I think the Buonanotte one's really, really important because, like, I know we're a few goals behind, but you get a goal with sort of 10, 15 minutes to go, you think there's a bit of a spark. But, yeah, there was holes, but I don't think we were going to exploit them tonight.
Yeah, lots of people getting in touch on Facebook. We'll get through your comments as much as we can. Also, if you've got any questions to put to the boys about the performance, then please do get in touch. Joseph wasn't too happy. He said it was a bit like watching paint dry, that one. Does say well done to Newcastle. And Sarah's questioned the fight and the passion of the team tonight. Is that a fair thing? And if you were a player and heard that, how upset would you be by that kind of comment?
Well, I think there's validity to such suggestions, but when you consider things all round, Leicester, the players they've got there, that they're not necessarily that type of player to be aggressive naturally in their game. Obviously, you can apply yourself as well as possible, but they're not a feisty, fiery team as a whole, which is something that, I wouldn't say necessarily been missing, but it would have been a welcome addition if there were more players like that to, at least if you're not playing good cohesive football, make it difficult for the opposition. Be horrible to play against as best you can in the modern day. And I don't mean like outright over the top aggression but just be a team that people don't want to come up against. And that isn't happening for Leicester. It hasn't happened for most of the season, really. And I think on top of that as well, I very, very rarely can you sit there and accuse players of not trying. It does happen. It does happen. People give in too easily and accept their fate. I wouldn't really label Leicester City with that. What I would label, the confidence is draining, isn't it? It's just coming out of their game as individuals, as a team, and bit by bit, you know, that they were the very early part of the season. You know, they were hanging in games, weren't they? But all of a sudden, that sort of ebbs and drains away, and I think you're seeing the results of that now.
Yeah. Let's bring Gerry back in. Gerry, we were obviously watching in the studio. You were in King Power Stadium with that game. In terms of the feeling of it being flat, is that a way you describe how it was feeling it within the stadium?
Yeah, in a word, Lewis, unfortunately. You know, sometimes, I'm not saying all the fans, but I'm sure there's a section of the fans that are coming here, you know, expecting the worst, and so you change the attitudes by, you know, creating an atmosphere by your performance on the pitch, your urgency, your desire, your willingness to go and, you know, give the fans something to cheer about. And for the most part, that just didn't happen this evening, I have to say.
No, you're right. Lots of fans getting in touch. You know, Nigel saying not a good enough performance tonight. Noel says, I just hate losing. And that is obviously the feeling amongst everybody. And, you know, the unwanted record tonight, I guess, that we heard about is that, you know, Leicester have now got the most home games in a row in the Premier League without scoring a goal. And that will be maybe the biggest concern. A number of people getting in touch on Facebook talking about opportunities, not taking opportunities. They did have a couple of opportunities today, but would you also say, and this is where we bring you in, Matt, as a former defender, defence needs to be sorted first, because there were, you know, the opportunities that Man United had and the goals they scored, pretty preventable in many situations.
Were too easily conceded, weren't they? It was sort of too straightforward. Man U showed quality in certain moments, you know, throughout the game, but yeah, I mean, I've got just running through my head. The first goal, yeah, we spoke about that at half time. Numerous facets to that could have been dealt with much, much better. Like you go through, and the second goal was, it happens, but the amount of bodies Leicester had back, they were in possession before, as you spoke about, Matt, when we were looking at it at the time, but they got bodies back. You could say, in isolation, unlucky. Oh, it just fell and ricocheted off. But again, Leicester were like unlucky. It happened. The ball falls to the opposition. The opposition forced the issue. It was a soft goal, wasn't it? Soft goal. Third one, good play from Man U's point of view. Quality finish from Fernandes, but again, it's just they're just stroking it about at will. You know. But again, confidence is draining. From all departments, yeah. Leicester looked a bit more secure against Chelsea. Was that because Chelsea were rather inept, really, in the final third? Tonight, it was a different system, but same old outcome, wasn't it? I'm afraid. And again, just to reiterate, I wouldn't put it down to lack of effort, lack of application. It's just the confidence is draining. You're not scoring. Yeah, they're trying to nullify and contain teams first, but they're struggling to do that so much that they're struggling to. They can't advance on their creativity, and then it's just getting from one. It's just sliding down, isn't it now? Mm-hmm. But that is a damning statistic, isn't it? 7 home games now without a goal. I was going to say you don't see that often, but you've never seen it in the Premier League because you just told us that.
Garnacho scored tonight. He also gave a warning sign with a goal that was ruled out for offside. Yeah. Was that quite a concern, Matt, that there was that warning sign?
Yeah.
And then he was still afforded the space and the luxury to be able to...
Like Matt said, those goals do happen, right, where you scrap in and the ball just happens to drop to their man in the box. But the last few weeks, those 2 words, soft goal, have been thrown around like, you know, it's like a normal saying at the minute. The Bruno goal at the end, probably the best goal I remember anyone scoring against us over the last few games. You know, you can't really say much about it. That's quality, but a lot of the goals we've conceded over the last 3-4 games have been those soft goals. And if you really want to sort of nitpick, there's about 8 or 9 things every one of those goals that we could have done differently that prevents the ball moving on. So, yeah, warnings or not, it happened, didn't it? So it's definitely scary looking into the next few games for sure.
Yeah, thank you so much for all your messages coming in at the moment. Dale, another one saying, I hate losing, and it does look like we're heading towards the EFL. Chris points out about luck. He says, you're only unlucky if you perform well and lose marginally. We're miles apart.
Yeah, I don't think you can say Leicester unlucky tonight. More so against Chelsea. Yeah, they were more in that game. It's more of an even contest. But like I said to Man United, from my memory, and I've seen them a fair few times this season, that was certainly one of, if not their most straightforward and comfortable game there, because they were 3-0. It is quite categoric, but it was too easily achieved, wasn't it? But unfortunately, sign of the times, and you keep with the best will in the world thinking, oh God, Leicester, if buts, maybes. I was working it out myself with about 11 games to go. I was thinking, Leicester, if they win 5 of those games, that doesn't sound ridiculous. I know it is when you have only won a handful anyway. But I sort of split it up into 2 sort of phases, because there's 6 games that are really tough. And then there's 5 that, in brackets, winnable, achievable, a long shot, I know. But I thought if they could just nick a couple of results in that 6 and then finish with a flurry, you never know. But
well, actually,
it's looking difficult.
To be fair, John's been in touch, and it kind of works with what you're saying. Once you're in a rut, it's hard to get out of.
Yeah, exactly. It flies. What I just suggested there, I'm not saying it's going to happen. It flies against all reason. Leicester, what have they won? 5 games this season. Where they're trying to get them to win 5 in 11. Very, very unlikely. But strange things happen. But there aren't too many signs of it at the moment. The year of the Great Escape. I know it's pointless harping on about that, which was 10 years ago now. There were signs throughout the season. Leicester were in most of the time, in the games. Just needed that extra ingredient, a little turn. But this Leicester team seemed quite a way off that.
Yeah, we often talk about the international break not being brilliant because it breaks up the season so much. But actually, for Leicester, is it maybe a good time to be able to have a bit of time?
There's not a lot of momentum to build off at the minute, is there? So, a break won't hurt. But the question is, what do you do in that break? What does Ruud sort of instill to the lads? What changes does he make? Because I think it's pretty apparent that we thought we found something, and today didn't quite feel like that. So as much as it's a break, get your bearings. There's definitely some stuff to work on in the training ground, I think.
Absolutely. You'll be able to hear from Ruud van Nistelrooy on our social media feeds at LCFC over the coming hours and into tomorrow as well, and some of the players involved today. Before we wrap up, let's take a look at what's coming up on Fox's Hub and what you can enjoy in terms of the content we're sending your way. Of course, Leicester is the Place is a great podcast. Matt Elliott hosts some of it. You can hear from some of the legends of the club, so do check that out on Fox's Hub at lcfc.com. The next watch along, Manchester City against Leicester, live from 7:15 on Wednesday the 2nd of April. So as Leicester return to action after the break. And as we said, Leicester's the Place. New podcast available tomorrow, and it is with Simon Grayson. Is that you, Matty? Were you in that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's with Larry, as we call him.
Good conversation?
Quite predictably. Yeah, he's a great lad, Larry. He's very down to earth lad. Sorry, but he's I only played with him for a short period, sort of 3/4 of a season here, but always got on well with him. Real solid character. Gone on, had a great career, and management wise, but interesting viewing. He's got a few behind the scenes stories, as we all have.
Brilliant stuff.
Even you know, but we won't go there.
You'll be able to pick that up tomorrow on the website at Fox's Hub. Gents, thanks so much for your time today. Thanks also to our commentary team as well. Gerry, Taggart, thank you for your time as always. And to Charlie too, thank you for watching Not a Result. Leicester City were after tonight, but after the international break, they will go again. We'll see you then.